KEF Connect, conversations that matter. Tune in every week for interviews with industry trendsetters and community changemakers that will instill inspiration and ignite action. Visit www.kefholdings.com and click KEF Connect to listen.
Hello and welcome to KEF Connect, a podcast designed to inspire. I'm your host, Sarah Hedley Hymers, and in Season 3 of KEF Connect, we're focusing on the love of learning, connecting you, the listeners, to the thought leaders and trailblazers of today. Today's episode, called Change the Story, is named after the theme of this year's Emirates Airline Festival of Literature. And my special guests are Festival Director Ahlam Bolooki and prize-winning author Annabel Kantaria. Welcome both to the show. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having us.
Ahlam, as mentioned, the theme of this year's festival is Change the Story. But what does that actually mean?
Well, it's funny, we actually selected this theme before lockdown even happened. It was just a theme that we knew that we wanted the next edition to be. And then, the pandemic broke out and then, lockdown and it just became more and more relevant as the year went on. And we started to look at all of the ways, and I mean, our story was changing regardless of however you look at it, right? Everyday life, things that we never thought we would see were, the way that we shift our behaviors, how we view life, what the future is going to look like. Everything is changing as we live and breathe. But for us, it's the program of the festival that we looked at, and looking at some of the authors that do present new ideas, and some of the discussions that we could have between authors from all over the world. Open discussions about what's next in every area you can think about.
I think one of the key words for sure this year or last year during COVID was pivot. If I hear the word pivot again, it will be a day too soon. But yes, it was definitely a year of drastic.
Yeah, pivot and in these unprecedented times.
Yes, indeed. So this podcast series is all about the love of learning. What will visitors learn at the festival this year?
I always look at the festival as like a concentration of life lessons. You kind of gain so much in that one weekend or 1 week that you spend there, and every talk gives you something. And it's not all about learning lessons necessarily. You dream, you have your perception changed, you find something new, and I just find that it's a gift. It's such a gift, and I felt that way long before I worked here. I'm not just saying that because I'm the director of the festival, but I've been going to the festival for many years. I think all of us have, and it's always just an internal transformation, or that thing that you do on your own. Really, I always came to the festival alone. I never really planned it with anyone else, and you go and you sit in a session. It's that experience that you have with that connection with the authors on stage and what they're saying, and the questions that come up are yours, and the books that you buy are yours, and then you engage with those books long after the author has spoken and you've been to the festival, and it's such a unique experience, I think.
Can you give us any examples of any life lessons or takeaways that you personally have had from the festival?
I don't know that I can right now think about one, but I think I've come across authors from every corner of the world, and one takeaway is that you find so many similarities between cultures around the world, and in their stories when they talk about their daily lives and their struggles and the things that the topics of their books that they bring up. A lot of things are introduced as new ideas to you, but then you find so many commonalities as well. And one thing that we like to do as a festival is to put Arab and non-Arab authors together on the same platform, and bringing Emirati writers or Emirati moderators into the conversation, just to really have that open dialogue and explore topics. So yeah, there's, I can't really put my finger on one right now, but it's just so many.
And what have we got in store? We've got the final weekend. We had 3 weekends of the Emirates Lit Fest this year.
Yeah.
What's in store for the final weekend, which is taking place at Al Sakal on Friday the 12th and Saturday the 13th of February?
Yeah, so it's been really special this year. For the first time ever, we partnered with Art Jamil and Al Sakal, who are amazing in presenting, important work and art in all their forms in Dubai. And our final weekend will be at Al Sakal. Al Sakal have a really cool community of businesses, local businesses that live within their walls. And there's going to be activations within the community. So, under the Lit Fest banner, but they're all sort of activating their own events based on connecting it to literature in one way or another. We will have a 12-hour programming with the Bergen Literary Festival, who have organized with 12 different festivals from around the world. And Dubai will have a slot at 7 p.m. But we're dedicating the little cinema room in the A4 space to show this global programming of literary festivals on the 12th of February. So that's really cool. Come by and check it out.
That's
for
amazing.
sure.
I had no idea that it was coordinated with festivals happening all around the world. That gives such a sense of community in the literary field. That's exciting.
We've really built that relationship over the past couple of years. And last year at the festival, we had the Global Association of Literary Festivals, where we hosted, right before the pandemic, literary festival directors from all over the world here in Dubai. So we were lucky enough to have them all here. And yeah, we do collaborate quite a lot now, which is amazing. But yeah, there's lots going on in the Sarkal. We're keeping as much as we can outdoor. Most of the events will take place in the yard in concrete. There'll be writing workshops. There'll be things for families to do. So definitely come by and check it out.
It's an amazing space. I love Al Sakal Avenue. It's absolutely fabulous. It's not one avenue either, is it? It's a whole block of streets, and there are so many cool cafes, and there's Cinema Akil. I absolutely love, with the chai little cafe in the inside. Oh, it's just, it's a wonderful place. So anybody who hasn't been should definitely go. Yeah. Now, one of the biggest highlights of the festival is the writing contest. Can you tell us about that and how budding authors can enter?
Yes, so this year's shortlist has already been selected, will be announced at the festival. But for next year, and we normally open up the pre-registrations soon after the festival is over, so do keep an eye out on our website, the Lit Fest Writing Prize. Normally what we ask for is that the author has obviously never been published before, so we like to publish first-time authors. And we ask for the first 2,000 words of the book and a synopsis, and then all of the entries are shortlisted by a literary agent who we work with. It's over the years we've worked with Luigi Bonomi, who is a literary agent from the UK. And I think Annabel is better to speak about the prize.
Yes, indeed. We have the first ever winner of the prize in the studio. What did it feel like to win that prize?
It felt absolutely amazing, obviously.
Did you cry?
I didn't cry. I think I was so stunned and so shocked, but also so thrilled. And I felt like I was really in the right place at the right time, like I was really meant to be winning it. That sounds really arrogant, doesn't it? But I'd been trying to write books for a long time. And whenever I got stuck, I would Google how difficult it is to find an agent and how difficult it is to get your work in front of an agent. So the moment I saw this competition come up for the first time, I just thought I have to enter it. It cost 200 dirhams, and I thought, I've got nothing to lose except 200 dirhams, and a top agent from London will read my work, and I'll know then whether I've got what it takes or not. So I entered, and then obviously I won, which changed everything.
And 2,000 words to me doesn't seem like a huge amount. Is it? Is it when it's that important, when you're entering a contest? How long did it take you?
So back then, see, I entered in 2013. I think it was just the first 5 pages, which when it's double-spaced on A4 is not a lot of words. But even 2,000 words is not that much. But what I would say to people thinking of entering is polish those words, make them absolutely perfect. I believe it doesn't matter if you haven't finished the actual book. But if those first 5 pages or that first 2,000 words are perfect and as good as you can give, then you've got a good chance.
Is that correct, Ahlam? You don't have to finish the whole book to enter the contest. You can enter with just the 2,000 words.
I believe so. Yeah.
So you went to the show and it was announced and you had to go up on stage. Was it like it is? Because I've been, but I wasn't there I wasn't there in 2013.
I decided to think really positive, so I went and I had my hair blow-dried that day. And I chose a winner's outfit, which looking back at it was actually really not that nice, but at the time I felt it was pink, it was really positive. And I sat in the audience with another lady who had entered, Rachel Hamilton, and we were holding hands. We knew each other beforehand, so we were holding hands when Luigi started reading the things, and he did it from 3rd position first. And that wasn't either of us. And then he started reading the 2nd place one, and it was Rachel's. Mm-hmm. And so she started screaming and ran up to the stage. And I just sat there thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be either really good or really bad. And obviously he started reading mine and I'd won, and that was fantastic.
How long was it before the realisation set in that you now had to finish a novel to publish?
About half an hour. No, not even that long actually, because after the ceremony everybody then disappeared and I was just left standing there thinking, oh my gosh, I've just won this competition, now what happens? And Luigi Bonomi, who's the agent who judges it, came over to me and said, Annabel, have you finished the book? And I hadn't. I'd only written about 35,000 words, which is about a third of a novel. And he said, oh, good, don't worry, because actually I think it needs to be changed. He said, you write beautifully, but your story is quite weak, so I'd like you to replot it. But don't worry, you've got 2 weeks till you come to London to meet me for lunch, so just do it in those 2 weeks. Bring me a new plot, and we'll take it from there.
Wow.
That was terrifying, I can tell you that.
So can you tell me how your story changed after your book was on shelves?
After it was on the shelves?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So once it was published?
It can't change because it's published, right?
No, I mean your personal story.
I see. Story
how
to me is
your
book.
personal story changed.
The moment I won that competition, I realised that if I was serious about a career as an author, this was it. This was the pivotal moment. I had to really chase that dream. I had Luigi waiting in London for a manuscript. I basically changed career that night, and it was a huge thing looking back at it, because there was a massive amount of work ahead of me writing the first book. It took about a year.
And what was your career at the time?
I was a freelance journalist.
So that had to take a back seat.
It limped on for a while. I did continue as much as I could, but it was way too much work, trying to write a novel at the same time as keeping up what I was doing in journalism. So it took about a year to write that book. And then when Luigi sold it to the first publisher, they gave me a 3-book deal. So then the moment I finished that book, I had to write the next one. And this went on for 4 years, literally a book a year. So
did you have the ideas already?
I had to find them very fast. No, I did not have them. I still don't have them. I have to work on that.
So how did you, going back to the love of learning, how did you learn to write books in the first place? So before you entered the competition, you already had 35,000 words. How does a person, I'm a journalist too, so I can write, but it's such a different discipline. I couldn't write 35,000 words. How do you teach yourself or learn from others how to get to that point?
I think you just have to read a lot, and you have to read your fiction as a writer. Mm-hmm. So you read a story and enjoy it, and then you read it again to see how the author has done the things that they've done in the book. And so in my library of books at home, I have all these books that sort of, this one's really good at foreshadowing, or this one's really good at the way she does this. And I pull them out and I always look at them like reference books almost, to see the techniques that other authors have used. There's also a whole host of material online. You can Google anything like, how do I show not tell? How do I put a twist in a book? Mm-hmm. Any of these things, you can Google that. And there's lots of books you can buy on writing and courses, online courses.
I actually did an online course with Karen Osman, who is another winner, and I find her so good at teaching. I don't know if she used to be a teacher before she was an author, but her workshops, some of which are free online, so people can get those. I just found her techniques very practical, things like create an Excel sheet for your timelines, and then put in everything that's happening to all the characters on that specific day, month, week. But it's a very structured way of writing. And to me, that helped me think about plots in a different way, because I often think of somebody sitting at a window with a view and just, typing out these beautiful prose. But there's a lot of, like you just said, very technical formulas to writing, which is...
Over the years, I went to almost every masterclass that was on at the Literature Festival. Each year, I would be the first one to sign up for all the authors who gave masterclasses and workshops. I was there learning from the best. And we had some incredible authors since I've been going to that since before 2013. So I remember Tony Parsons. I'm going to... Mark Billingham. I've forgotten all the names now, but yeah, lots of really top authors.
And they make good teachers as well.
Not necessarily, but they always have something interesting to say, and I learned something from every single one. I mean, some come very prepared and do amazingly structured workshops, others just talk randomly, but you still learn something from every single author who talks. So I would advise people to listen to these classes online as well if they can.
It's interesting because people think of the winners of the Lit Fest as overnight successes, but it's not that, is it? You've just said how hard you were trying and how many classes you attended, and this speaks to why education is so important. Which brings me on to the topic of homeschooling in the pandemic. Now, being both literary heroes in our community, are you finding it easier than the rest of us to teach children, or not?
I don't have children, so I'll let Annabel answer that.
I'm in the really fortunate situation that my children's school is still going ahead physically at the moment. It's one of the few in Dubai that's doing that. So I'm not actually teaching at home. And in fact, last year when they were at home, the school was still doing all the teaching online. So thankfully I didn't have to do that. But in terms of getting them to read in a world where they're distracted by technology and YouTube and Fortnite and Minecraft and blogs and vlogs and all the stuff they watch, what I've learnt with my son, who's more of a reluctant reader, is to let them choose what appeals to them. So we might, as adults, have an idea of, you should be reading this, it's really good, I read it. But that doesn't always work. And my son really likes graphic novels, or did a couple of years ago, and I just thought, gosh, that's not a book, it's got pictures in. But if it's getting him to read the book and making him enjoy it, then why not? So let them read what they want and read it with them. Sit with them. They love that one-on-one time. It's very precious, and they really kind of unfurl like little flowers when you sit and spend that time with them. So those would be my main tips.
Now, talking about education, but for adults, you went to New York, Ahlam. You're a passionate poetry writer, and you went to New York and joined a workshop. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think, it's just part of that journey. I've always loved books, and I used to work in marketing, and then everyone on my team, you're so good at writing, and I would write web copy and things to do with just marketing copy. And then I did go to New York 1 year in 2015 and did a couple of courses with Gotham Writers Center.
It sounds so romantic, doesn't it? I'm going to go to New York and do poetry. Was it romantic? Was that the reality?
No, I think I was there for some personal reasons as well, but it was just a good opportunity to, go and do that. It's one of the oldest writing schools in New York, and what was really interesting is the kind of people who would come to every class. I found that the best part, because you would. There's just such interesting people living in Manhattan, and every single class I did memoir writing, poetry, even blog writing, all sorts of, I just wanted to test things out. And then really interesting people would be there, and you'd read your work out loud and people would comment. And I feel that exposure to all the amazing people that I met in the classes were great. I write a little bit of poetry, but for me it was a period. I used it as a healing period. There was a time when my mother passed away, and for me, I wrote poetry in the time when I was grieving her. And when I go back and look at those pieces, I was like, wow, I can see the journey. Like I can see from the moment when it was like really, really raw and how that was evolving. And that was the same time when I was reading so much, and I'd left my job after that had happened. And then I came across it, didn't come across, but the opportunity with the Lit Fest came up. So all of that tied into each other.
It's an amazing job to have.
Yeah.
How did you get the job of director at Lit Fest?
Well, I used to work in government before, and I left my job in that time when I was just talking to you about, and I kind of needed that time for myself, but this opportunity came up with the Lit Fest where they had a youth program, and they needed someone to help promote that youth program in the festival to young students across the Arab world. It's somehow tied to my previous job. So Isabel called me from the festival and said, I heard that you've left and you're available, and there's this opportunity. It's a project, it's a 6-month project. And I wanted something in between. I didn't want a full-time job at the time, and I didn't want to do nothing as well. I thought this was perfect, and that time I was writing so much, I was reading, and I felt like it was one of those like serendipitous things that happens. I got this call from Isabel, and then I was like, yes, I'll do it. And the money wasn't much, and compared to what I was doing, it was a smaller role. But once I had like one foot into the foundation, I just fell in love with it. Everything about the office that we work in, and the nature of the job, and everything that we do for like students, and every single project in the foundation is like meaning centered. It's like there's a purpose for everything. You don't just do something for ticking a box. Everything is for bringing positive change and changing someone's life. And once you have a taste of that, it's so difficult to go and work in a corporate job or for me, at least, it really, really was. And at the end of the 6 month, I just told Isabel, I said, look, I need to stay. What do you have for me here? Like, what can I do long term? I know this was a project. And I did not expect this. I mean, I really expected her to say, head of marketing or something. And then she said, look, I'm looking for the next festival director because I don't want to do it anymore. And I want to focus on year-long foundation events. And I was just like, one of those surreal moments in my life where I was like, this is exactly what I'm meant to be doing and where I'm meant to be. And, before that, I think I was going in the direction of writing. But when this came, I had that feeling that, okay, well, right now my purpose is bigger than that. Like I need to give a platform to others, like all of the right voices who need this platform. And it's bigger than just about me and my work right now.
I think that really speaks to the importance of learning on the job, because when we think about learning, we think about going to school, education, but actually there are lessons to be found everywhere, and learning on the job is a really good way to do it, as you have shown.
Absolutely.
Annabel, I read on your website that you have a degree in psychology and that you secretly dream of going back to get your master's. Is that true?
Sometimes it's true, depending on what day it is. I also dream about getting a master's in creative writing, so there's 2 master potentials there.
And would that be for business or for pleasure?
Probably both. If it was in psychology, it would be business. That would be me looking to move into becoming a psychology professional. I always fancied the idea of being, fancied sounds wrong, sorry, I always liked the idea of being a counsellor and helping people. And when I left university, I sort of threw that idea around, and my tutor at the time said, look, you're 21, go and live life, and then come back and be a counsellor, but you're too young now, which makes sense to me now, I'm nearly 50. But at the time, I just thought, no, I know a lot. I'm 21.
Can I just say I'm shocked at your age? I did not expect that at all.
So yeah, the counselling thing I think is something that could happen later on in life, but also I love that idea of going back to university as a mature student and doing a master's in creative writing and really exploring how I can push what I already know and expand that further. So who knows?
See, I kind of have a slight fear about mature student life, and I wouldn't know what to expect. But I think it's also a bit exciting at the same time. It's something that I would like to do, but then I don't know if once, if I got there on week 1 and everybody's 21 and I'm sat at the back feeling like everyone's mum.
That's where online learning looks attractive.
Right? And correspondence courses, which became super fashionable in COVID. Well, you could also, we just talked about writing as therapy, Annabel, so you could combine both of your skills into one and become a therapist using creative writing to get people through a process.
It's possible,
Good
isn't
idea.
it?
Yeah. Anything's possible. We're in Dubai, right? Like, that's got to be the motto of the Emirate. So, tell me, if you could both recommend just one book to get people hooked on reading books again, long form books, which book would you recommend and why? Who wants to tell me first?
I always find this question super difficult to answer because, like Annabel was saying earlier, like with her children, with her son, you should let them pick what appeals to them. It's really risky when you recommend to someone who's not a reader and like, this book is incredible, because it might not grab their interest and put them off books. It might, they might not be there yet, like in their sort of journey of reading, like you don't start by reading, some of the classics and things like that, which are incredible. But one book that I love and I always recommend is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I think it's something that anybody can consume, but it's also profound, and it's like my guide in life whenever I feel like things are, gone off the trail. Like, I go back to that book and I'm like, okay, it's a series of bits that Gibran has written on whether that's marriage or children or money or life or friendship and all of those things. And they're just such gems.
And that's the book companion for life, the reference guide for
definitely
for living.
I think so. For me, that's the one.
And Annabel, what would your top book be?
I have to agree with Ahlam. It's too subjective to tell somebody one book, because some people might say Harry Potter, but I personally didn't really get into that. Do you know what we're saying? Yeah. So when I was thinking about this question, I thought there's only one obvious answer, and that's one of my books.
Which one? Oh, you have to pick a favourite. It's like picking children.
It is. I have no favourite. They're all good.
Great answer.
Do you know, I have a book club. We meet once a month, and our last book was Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which I would highly recommend. And it's so interesting. There's 6 of us in book club, and each book speaks to each woman completely differently. So it depends on where you are in your lifetime, what age you are, your relationship status, all of these things impact. And I think there is no right book, but all of them are worth reading, for
Definitely.
sure. So, talking about your books, Annabel, please tell our listeners where they can get your books.
They're all available. I have 4 published at the moment, and a 5th one coming out in May. They're all available online on Amazon. In Dubai, they're available in Magrudi's and Kinokuniya.
And have you put any books on Audible yet?
I think they're all on Audible. I believe they are.
Okay. And Kindle and
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
I have a really good publisher. They're very good at doing all of that.
And so you're onto your 5th book. This is about to come out?
That's about to come out. I actually wrote my 6th book since COVID kicked in last March.
Wow.
And that's out at the moment with publishers being ready to, what's the word? Out
To market?
Out to market, see who wants it. My
Is
agent
that
loved it.
quite a nervous time?
It was the first time round. I'm not nervous this time. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. I've still got one book on the contract to write, so I will get on with that.
Oh, so this is your second 3-book deal.
Yes, so I've got book number 6 still to write under contract. So the one I wrote under lockdown was just a speculative bit of fun that I enjoyed writing.
So what's the name of the one that's coming out next month that we can...
The House of Whispers.
The House of Whispers. And this is a thriller.
It's a psychological suspense, slightly gothic, slightly dark type of a book.
Set in which time period?
Contemporary, always contemporary.
Ah, interesting. Okay, I'll get that. And Ahlam, can you tell us where we can find out more about Emirates Festival of Literature? What website? What's the best place to go for the programme? What are your social media handles?
Yeah, so emirateslitfest.com, that's where the program is and all the tickets. Emirates Literature Foundation is the website where you can see year-long what we're up to, and at Emirates Lit Fest on all other social media platforms.
Fabulous. Thank you to both our lovely guests, and thank you to everyone for listening. Please support our literary heroes here, read more, write more, and tune in next week for more conversations that matter. You can find more KEF Connect conversations at www.kefholdings.com by clicking KEF Connect to listen, or listen on your regular apps, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I'm your host, Sarah Hedley Hymers, and you can continue the conversation with me at Hedley Hymers on Instagram. Until next time, be inspired.